Hello everyone, a warm welcome to the session again, where we are actually discussing about some topics related to nanomaterials, which is in your unit 5 in engineering chemistry. So if you look at the structure again, last class we started discussing about properties of nanomaterial. Now as far as the properties are concerned, in the last class what we majorly started discussing, or rather we discussed, is about high surface area to volume ratio. That's what we have learned till now, is that with the increase of surface area to volume ratio of a nanomaterial, the percentage of surface atom increases at a faster proportion at the nanoscale. That's what we learned. And these characteristics of nanomaterial allow them to exhibit unique properties which are much different than their bulk counterpart. So with that, we pretty much understood that if you have a larger surface area to volume ratio, you have a higher surface atoms, and that will have a different impact than their bulk counterpart. So before going into the next topic, that's what I wanted to discuss so that you can actually have some idea about the previous lecture as well. Today we are going to discuss about a particular effect which we call it as quantum confinement effect. So as far as this effect is concerned, the major title or the major statement that it makes is actually when a size of a nanocrystal, as you know we are discussing about nanomaterial, when a size of a nanocrystal, that is single crystal nanoparticle, is comparable to the de Broglie wavelength, then some peculiar things happen. So we'll discuss what de Broglie wavelength is in a minute. Some peculiar thing happens. What happens? Electrons and holes are spatially confined. So when we talk about this so-called confinement part, this corresponds to this term, electrons and holes. Don't worry about the holes part, think about the electrons for now. We'll discuss little bit about holes as well. Okay, so now they are spatially confined. What does it essentially mean? It means that they don't have enough space to move around, and that happens only at the nanoscale. That's the beauty of nanoscale. Now what about the quantum part? So when we talk about de Broglie wavelength, even if you don't know anything about quantum chemistry, you already know the de Broglie wavelength somehow to some extent relates to the wave particle duality. That means a particular particle, or rather can also be observed as wave depending on the situation. Okay, so once you have this wave particle duality, you can calculate a de Broglie wavelength for a particle, and that's where the quantum part comes in. Okay, now once that quantum part comes in, then there are some consequences because of this inclusion of quantum part. One is it is confined. At the same time, if you introduce this quantum concept, then you will find that the discrete electronic energy levels are formed, and that has very unique energy concerns in terms of their energy level as well as their band gap. Okay, we'll discuss this in details, but before moving into that, let's try to understand why do you need to go to the nanoscale. Okay, let's think about the bulk material. What do you mean by bulk material? You already know, we have discussed this. Bulk materials are the materials where now all the dimensions are above 100 nanometer, right? So let's say about once you have a bulk material, normally if you have a bulk material, this material contains, mostly for crystalline substance at least, you can consider this, it contains some grains. So what are these grains? These grains are typically of around millimeter to centimeter size, not at the nanoscale at least. Okay, so once you have these grains, we call it as grains. Okay, so now if let's say you have a bulk material like this and it has several grains. Now all these grains here, this particular grain is different than this grain. Okay, and they are separated by something called grain boundaries. So once you have this, identified these different grains, nowadays you can actually see them also, or there are experimental tools by which you can find out this grain structure. They are very, very important in a lot of engineering applications, especially in civil, mechanical. These people are really looking into this kind of structure, not necessarily at the nanoscale, but at a much higher level. Okay, so once you have this, you think this is a bigger structure. So you have a grain, you have a bulk material which has several grains, but none of them are small at the nanoscale. So in that grain, the properties may look similar. Now, if an electron in that material, let's say if electron has to move around, it has lot of chance to move around. At least as far as our concern, it can move around from this side to that side, and this is much bigger, so it has got more space to move around. Now, let's say you make this one at the small scale. Once you make these grains at the nanoscale, then what will happen? Then you will still get this one. But in that case, maybe this number of grains that you have is so much, but in that case it may not be that much, right? So in that case, if you make the grain at the nanoscale, then what will happen? Now, the electron can move only this much. So, a very small electron can move around. So, what happens when you go from bulk to the nano? Essentially, you are restricting to some extent the movements of electrons. Okay? So, that's where the confinement comes. That's where you are restricting from, if you go from bulk to nanomaterial, you are restricting the movement of electrons. Okay, you are confining them to a certain space. Okay. Now, once you do that, there is very interesting thing happens in terms of the energetics. At this stage, but now the question comes, how small it has to be? I told you already at the nanoscale. But in a more precise way, to define it, it is going to be if the size of your particular particle is at the order of comparable to the de Broglie wavelength of electron, then things will be much, much different than this one. We have already explained in a very qualitative way that electrons will not have enough space to move around. So their motions are going to be restricted. Now, when I talk about de Broglie wavelength, I know that you have already learned about this, about wave particle duality to some extent. Okay, but just to give you a much better idea, what do you mean by de Broglie wavelength? So you know, de Broglie wavelength is defined as the wavelength. It's defined as this lambda, de Broglie wavelength lambda is equals to h by mv, where h is actually Planck constant, m equals to the mass. In this case, because we are talking about electron movement, so let's consider about mass of electron, and v is actually the velocity. Okay, so now as I said, when you start squeezing these sizes, once you get to a point where that size is comparable to this lambda, then something happens at the energy level. So we'll discuss that in a second. This requires much rigorous mathematical treatment, but we'll try to understand from a very qualitative aspect. De Broglie wavelength can be given as h by mv. Okay, so now once you do that, if you consider this v as a velocity of light, then you will see the lambda that you are going to get, it's going to be very low, very low. It will not be at the nanoscale. So in this particular case, you have to remember, whenever you are talking about this V, we have to consider the kinetic energy of electrons. It is moving around, and kinetic energy of electron is essentially, it's a function of temperature. If you change the temperature, it will also change. So at this stage, we don't need to learn more about that, but as far as the kinetic energy of electrons are concerned, if you calculate those kinetic energy at certain temperature, let's say room temperature, you will get to a point where this lambda is going to be around at the nanometer range. But essentially what we will be looking for is how these sizes are influencing so-called the energy states of a particular particle. Okay? So this is something that we are going to discuss next, because if you understand that part, you can correlate that part with this kind of approach. So what we know now? So this is an atoms at discrete energy levels. So you already know, you got some neutron, proton, some nucleus, and electrons are moving around it. Okay, this is a classical concept, but for us it will suffice the purpose. Okay, so now you got some so-called energy levels. You have already know about atomic orbital, molecular orbital, all these things you are already familiar with, so I am not discussing them in details. So once you know this, then you know how to fill up the electrons also. You fill up in each level, you cannot have more than 2 electrons. Why? Because that will violate Pauli's exclusion principle. Okay? So now, once you go from these atoms to these bulk materials, so we need to somehow get some sort of idea about from a different approach, and the approach that we have taken here, we already know it's a band theory. So band theory of solids you are already probably familiar with from your intermediate. So in this case, when atoms are brought together in a bulk material, the energy states form nearly continuous bands of states, or in semiconductors and insulators, a nearly continuous band separated by energy gap. Going from atoms to bulk material, some way or the other we have to extrapolate this theory of these atomic orbitals to band theory. Okay, so that's pretty much what we are going to do in a, as I said, in a very qualitative way. So this is how we can do this. At least in terms of visualization, this is how we can do. So this is actually, you have already known about what is molecular orbitals, what are atomic orbitals. So I'm not discussing on that part. So in this case, what happens? For a single atom, okay, a molecule, you have something called HOMO, which is highest occupied molecular orbitals. And another one is called LUMO, which is lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. So these are the two terms that are very, very interesting in terms of finding electronic properties. Why? Because in energetically, so this is actually the energy scale. Energetically, this is the highest energy electrons. At least the electrons which are situated at this level, they have much higher energy as compared to the rest of the electrons, because they are at the bottom. Whereas this is the lowest available unoccupied state that electrons can jump into. Okay, if you want your electron to jump from HOMO to LUMO, you have to give it this amount of energy. Okay, so this is our simple system, simple molecular orbital picture. Okay, so now let's talk about taking this little bit far. Okay, so this is for a single molecule. You have HOMO, you have LUMO. Now let's put the two similar things together. So as you know, in molecular orbital, number of atomic orbitals, or in molecular orbitals theory also, the number remains constant. So if we put another molecular orbital which has the same HOMO and LUMO, in that case again there will be interaction between HOMOs is going to interact with another HOMOs and LUMO is going to interact with another LUMO. In that case, what is going to happen? With the two molecules, you are going to generate 4 states. So now see what is happening here. In that case, from this level to this level, you have moved your HOMO. Whereas in this case, from this level to this level, you have lowered your LUMO energy level. Okay? I hope this is clear to you, because if you understand this part, then rest of the part is going to be relatively simpler. Now, this is again for 2 molecule system I have just drawn. If you take this further for a cluster, or Q means quantum size particle, if you take this further, let's say where instead of only 4 levels, you have multiple levels. In those cases, you are actually moving from simple system to a bit complex system. In each case, as you can find out, this difference that you have here, it actually getting decrease and decrease. So it is decreases. What we are changing from this side to that side? Nothing. We are just changing, in this case, the number of orbitals in each level, but conceptually exactly what we are doing, we are actually changing the size. So from this side to that side, the size increases. So from this side to that side, let's take at the end, as I told you, that part can be described more conveniently using band theory. In this case, essentially what happens, this is a semiconductor, but we can do it for metals and other things also. I'll come back to that in a minute. In that case, this level will keep on decreasing and this level will keep on increasing, but at the same time, this height was much higher than this side, and that height. In addition to that, there is something interesting going to happen. In this case, if you keep on increasing the size, then in that case, the energy levels are becoming smaller and smaller. Okay, so this is even smaller than this one. Okay, if you go even further, they are becoming even smaller. If you go to at the extreme, at your bulk material, where you have increased the size in such a way that it went to a bulk composition, in that case what is going to happen? It cannot be distinguished. These levels are becoming like a band. So that's why this band is going to be formed once we start moving from your atomic level or molecular level to the bulk level. Now, if you again, so there are 2 things that I told you. One is this del E is going to get decreased. Another one is the spacing between this one is also going to get decreased once you start increasing the size. In addition to that, there is one more thing that I wanted to highlight. Here I told you that this is actually the field orbital. This is actually vacant orbital. In this case also, this is actually till this point, these are all filled. And this is vacant. So these entire things are filled and these entire things are vacant. Like that, once you start moving towards the band structure, then you can say this entire band is filled. Okay, and they are filled with the valence electrons, because when we talk about this bond formation as well as this electronic transition, we don't much discuss about the core electrons. We only discuss about the valence electron. That's why this particular one, this field or band, is called valence band. Whereas in the other case, this entire structure, this entire levels of band is called conduction band. We'll get to know why it is called a conduction band. Okay, but these are unfilled, okay, or vacant. The reason why they are called valence band, I told you. The reason it is called conduction band, because in normal system, the system will not conduct electricity unless an electron getting enough energy to move from this level to that level. So then and only then it is going to be conducting electricity. Okay, you need to give this much amount of energy to the electron in order to make it conducting. We already know about this part. I don't want to say too much about this, that in band structure, now you already understood what band structure. In fact, while discussing this, I have kind of explained also what are the consequences of moving from atomic level to the band level, and actually your quantum particles come in between. As far as the insulator, you already know about this thing. Insulator means the difference between conduction band and valence bond are too much. So this is too high. In case of conductor, they are almost merging with each other. That's why an electron which is at the valence band, can easily go here. Okay, in fact, you don't need to give a lot of energy. Semiconductor, they have a finite difference of energy. So you need to give your system at least this amount of energy to move one electron from that part, from this to the conduction band. Energy gap between valence and conduction band is called band gap. Based on the band gap, you get to know whether a particular material is insulator, semiconductor or conductor. Based on this band gap, you get to know whether you are dealing with a nanomaterial or not. So in the conduction band, as I said, once you get to this metallic band structure, there are free electrons we can move around everywhere. This is not the case for nanomaterial, because I already told you, right? The nanomaterials, the electronic motions are restricted. These free electron models are kind of support this so-called high conductivity of a conducting material. So what's next? Now I told you when I was discussing about this band structure that there will be something which will be clear about conduction. Now when the conduction happens, this is essentially, we call it as energy transition. Sometimes it is also called as carrier generation. So if you have a system where essentially if this is black, where this everything, this is actually the topmost part of valence band. This is the lowest part of conduction band. If you give this particular system enough energy, that energy is, as we now know, for at least for semiconductor and insulator, give you the energy of similar to the band gap, then there will be a transition from valence bond to conduction band. These are all electronic transitions. Now, once these transitions happen, then you are going to generate particular system. Nowadays we call it as, this is your electron which was previously here, now it is moved there, and this is essentially a vacant position, now called as hole. So hole is nothing but considered to be a positive charge with all the other properties similar to electron. Now this electron hole combination together, they are called as excitons. If you give enough energy to a system, there will be a transition from valence bond to conduction band if the energy matches with this band gap. This energy is going to be related to our same formula for every energy transition, E equals to h nu. Now this nu we can also write as hc by lambda. This is called the excitation process. So that excitation can be measured in the form of this, but most of the cases, at least for nanomaterials in specific ways which has the semiconducting properties, in addition to this, they consider the emission part. That means from here, when a particular system comes back to its resting state, that is called the emission. So that emission this is emission and this is excitation. So this is essentially your so-called conduction band. Okay, so you can write as EC, this one you can write as EV. This EG essentially is going to be EC minus EV. Okay, so now exactly what happens. In order to understand this, we need to go back to this level, this particular slide. This is what we are discussing now. And I have already explained that going from this to that side, your size is increasing. This is at the molecular or atomic level, that is at the bulk level. So now you think reverse. If you start moving from that side to this side, what is going to happen? This energy gap is going to increase. Not only that, once this starts increasing, in addition to that, there will be discretization of energy levels. So, two things will happen. Increase in band gap. Because band gap is nothing but this difference. Once you start moving closer to the molecular level, so your band gap is getting increased. In addition to that, there is one more thing that is going to happen. Your energy, these ones, so energy levels are going to be discretized. Okay, so once you go from bulk material to nanomaterials, obviously there, as you know, that this band gap is going to get increased. In addition to that, there will be discretization of these levels. So in addition to this band gap increase, also this, you are going to have discrete energy levels. So, and how can we explain that? And this type of behavior will keep on increasing once you get to smaller and smaller particle. So essentially, the reduction in the number of atoms in materials results in confinement of normally delocalized energy states. Here, electrons delocalize. So once you start moving from this side to the smaller object, then there is a possibility that you are going to have discrete energy level which will lead you to form localized energy level. So this reduction in number result in the confinement of normally delocalized energy states. Okay. Now this electron hole pair that I have discussed in my previous slide becomes spatially confined when the dimensions of a nanomaterial approach the de Broglie wavelength of electrons in the conduction band. So what does that essentially means? Essentially means that if you keep on decreasing your particle size, once that particle size reaches the de Broglie wavelength, then actually you are going to see this kind of behavior more prominent. As a result, the spacing between energy bands, semiconductor, insulator is increased. As I say, this is going to be increased. Similar to the particle in a box scenario, the introductory quantum mechanics. So in this case, I don't want to highlight too much about particle in a box, but if you are interested, just let me know. As I was telling, now before we are discussing from this to that, now we are discussing from this to this, right? So once you start discussing from valence band to conduction band, you already know at the quantum sized particle, or now we can call it as nano-sized particle, where the size of the particle is kind of similar to de Broglie wavelength. You are going to have these discrete energy levels. At the same time, your band gap is going to be changing from this level to, is going to be increased also. Now, till now, whenever we are discussing about these kind of things, we didn't mention much things about the size, shape of the particle. In other words, we are discussing about a particle in which all the dimensions are within the nanoscale. So that means in that particular case, if you have a spherical nanoparticle, that means all three dimensions are at the nanoscale. So that kind of object, we call it as zero dimensional, because in this particular case, the confinement is going to happen in all three directions. Okay. Once you move from that, you go to something here, which is a rod, okay, or where, if you call it as quantum, where this is called a quantum dots, where all the motions are restricted, or all the electronic motions are restricted in all the directions. Once you go from here, zero dimension to this one dimension, what is going to happen? These are restricted at this level. So this one is also at the nanoscale, this one is also at the nanoscale, but this doesn't have to be at the nanoscale. So we call it as one dimensional, because in that case at least one dimension is not at the nanoscale. In that direction, the electrons are not confined, and that gives rise to a very unique property which you may probably see in when you start discussing about carbon nanotubes. Similarly, once you move from here to here, once you go to this 2D level, then here what is happening? Here essentially, this is the only thing that is at the nanometer range. This one and is the thickness that is at the nanometer range. So electrons can move freely on this 2D material. Okay, because this has to be at the nanometer scale. Once it is at that nanometer scale, that will have a very different property, which we now call it as quantum well, than quantum wire or quantum dots. Once you move from this to this part, where everything is above nanoscale, then we call it as a bulk. So what happens here? This is called density of states. Even if you don't know about this part, just identify this with the previous structure, previous energy level diagram. Once you go from bulk to this 2D, 1D and 0D structures, what you are actually observing that your energy is getting more and more discretized. Okay, this one will actually look like as if you have this atomic orbital type thing. Okay, you have energy, very fixed energy, and these energy are quantized. Whereas this energy is actually in continuum. Okay, these are quantized energy, and once you go from 3D to 0D, the energy keeps getting more and more quantized. So in addition to that, let's focus on the 0D part, where all three dimensions are at the so-called nanoscale. So once you go from here to bulk to 0D, your energy keeps on getting quantized. But in addition to that, if you fix there, I have shown you the cube, but it can be also a sphere. Once that sphere is at the nanoscale, just by changing the size of the sphere, here I have shown you it's changing. This is a gold nanoparticle from 6 nanometer to 2 nanometer. Once you keep on changing, this is actually the conduction band, this is the valence band. So now this was at 6 nanometer, you had this Eg. Once you move from this to that, you slowly think that at this level, at this 2 nanometer, or even this one, I think it's around 3 nanometer or something, your band gap keeps on increasing. And in addition to that, these energy levels also got more quantized, more discretized. So that's something very unique. So not only going from 3D to 0D, if you go, your energy levels are going to be discretized. In addition to that, with a particular structure at the nanoscale, if you change the size also, then also, but obviously that has to be at the nanoscale. It will give you a very different types of band structure, which will lead you to this kind of properties. So this is the same, corresponding to this, it will show this color. Corresponding to this, it will show this color. Just by varying your synthetic condition, you can generate this beautiful color solution. Now you can control their electronic properties. That's the beauty. It cannot do that with your so-called bulk semiconductor. Mostly I have tried to give you a very brief idea about what quantum confinement is. If you have any question, please let me know. And also I have pretty much given you some idea about the relationship of quantum confinement with the optical properties. So electronic and optical property together, you can call it as optoelectronic properties, can be tuned depending on the size and the shape of nanomaterials. I hope I have given you some idea about the properties of nanomaterial using these two concepts. One is surface area to volume ratio and quantum confinement. We can pretty much explain most of the properties. Obviously there are other factors which I am not discussing, but if you know about these two, that will be good enough for our recent purpose. Okay, so we have finished up the properties of nanomaterial. Once again, thank you for listening. If you have any question, feel free to send me an email. Thank you. Bye.